Welcome to our series, Fresh and Raw. My name's Kristi Reich. Today we're going to be making a delicious, simple raw dessert, a raw tart. You can fill your tart with any sort of flavor you like. I personally am going to do a berry tart today. It's nice and easy. Got some beautiful organic berries over here. Going to mix them together. This is a dessert you can make in 5-10 minutes. You can take it to a baby shower, a wedding, bridal ceremony. You can impress your friends, have it at dress club. They're going to think you slaved away all day to make this, and it's going to taste incredible too. So the first thing we're going to do is make a typical raw dessert crust. What I've done today is bought some nice organic almonds. They are raw, they're not heated, they are sliced. The reason we want to get the raw ones is because they have way more nutritional value than ones that have been blanched or roasted already. If you are using roasted nuts, that's fine. It's not a big deal. Maybe you have some in your cupboard you need to get rid of. So all you're going to do is put them in a food processor. This is an opportunity to add all sorts of superfoods to your raw dessert crust. I'm going to use some nice organic raw, again, coconut ribbons in there. I'm going to pour some beautiful chia seed, which is great for your health. And then I'm just going to process that into a powder, essentially. What you want to do is make sure your food processor is completely dry. So if you did just take it out of the dishwasher, dry the whole thing off, because otherwise it's not going to crumble. It's going to become mushy. That's not the goal. So always use a pinch of salt too with your savory cooking. When you get that little piece of salty, that little piece of sweet, it's going to make harmony in your mouth. That's what your body wants. So we'll turn this on. And it's done. Okay, so our only goal here is to get this into a crumbly consistency like so. Then what we're going to do is just drizzle it with some maple syrup and smush that together. The maple syrup should make it so it coagulates into like granola looking crumble, and then we're just going to use that to press into our little muffin pan here and make our tart crusts. So you can see it's kind of sticking together. You don't want to get it too wet with the maple syrup because then it's going to be kind of clumpy. So I've got my little rubber glove here. Whoops, you don't have to use one, but whenever I'm working with sticky nuts with maple syrup all over it, I tend to use one. Just get a little dip in the coconut oil here, melt it in my fingers, and I'm just going to use that to grease some of my little tart shells here. Whoops, a little thick. Coconut oil, the raw virgin kind, is like pretty much flavorless, so if you get a little bit too much in your tart shell, it's not a big deal. What this is going to do is just make it so your tarts come out of there really, really easily. So we'll grab some of our crust and we'll push it into one of these shells. Now what we want to kind of do is smush it all into the bottom, and then we're going to smush it up the whole edges to make it kind of like a pie. Again, it doesn't need to look perfect because once we take it out of the tray, it's going to have its perfect little tart shape. And what it needs to do that is to go into the fridge and kind of reharden a little bit. So we'll just push it all in there. If you're a little bit OCD about things like this, you can do it very beautifully on your own time. I'm just going to do a quick little 3 tarts here so you can get the look of how it's going to work out in the end, how we can garnish them all differently. Okay, that'll work out. All we need to have is a little hole in the middle where the filling's going to go, and it's going to taste delicious. So we'll get my weird little glove off, get rid of that, and we'll move on to the filling. So we can use the exact same food processor. We don't need to do dishes in between. And let's pour some of these nice raspberries, yum, and some beautiful blackberries into the food processor. And we're going to use the maple syrup to sweeten that with. So we'll do a little drizzle. And then we're going to throw about a tablespoon of coconut oil in there. What's going to happen is as the food processor is going, it's going to melt down the coconut oil. If you're processing it at home and your coconut oil is still coagulated, you can still see white flecks of it, you're going to have to add more berries and more maple until it melts into it. It should essentially look like a berry syrup. You shouldn't be able to see the little unmelted bits of your coconut. So we've got the berries, we've got the coconut oil, we've got the maple syrup. I'm just thinking, did I miss anything else? I think that'll be good, but maybe let's just do all of these blackberries. Save the raspberries for the garnish. So we'll turn this on. The only thing I can foresee is that it might need some maple syrup drizzled in there as we go for more moisture. So the mixture is looking pretty good. It looks just like raspberry jam in there. So as you can see, there are some parts where the coconut oil is still solid. Like I said, if that's the case, you just want to process it a little more. The heat of your machine, whether it's a food processor or a blender, is going to warm up the oil enough to melt it down. Once we get it into our tart shell, into the fridge, it'll reharden into like a nice cheesecake type consistency. It'll work out perfect. So I'll pop that back on, but in the meantime, I want to melt down some coconut oil in this bowl. So I've just created my own little double boiler here. Got some hot water in the bottom. This one on top's waiting for the coconut oil. And just gonna put in like 1 tablespoon of coconut oil in there. Let it start melting down. And that's gonna be for our raw chocolate sauce. We're gonna drizzle on the top. So we'll just leave that while we finish this. All right, I think it's ready. It smells good. So if you're like me, you don't like to waste any little piece of the food. So really get in your lid, scrape all those berries out, all that maple syrup, the coconut oil. You paid a pretty penny to get this stuff, so don't waste it. Just run it down the sink. Lick the whole thing out when nobody's looking, it'll be perfect. Okay, I'll set that over there. And I need my spoon. It's a little dirty, so we'll try the fork. We'll just give this a taste to make sure it's on point. Yeah, it's on point. It tastes exactly like a berry jam, essentially. So I guess you could use this recipe to also make a jam. So I'm gonna fill each tart with 2 scoops full of my mixture. So based on what I have today, you could probably make a half dozen. Double up the amount of berries you have, and you could definitely make 12 tarts easily for under $20 or $30. I got everything today from the local health food store. Okay, so I'll leave those there and we'll see if the coconut oil is melting down. So once your coconut oil is nice and melted down there in your little homemade double boiler, we're gonna add our sweetener, maple syrup. You can use whatever liquid sweetener you're a fan of. Coconut syrup, maple syrup. Some people prefer agave. But you want to use a liquid one, not a sugar one, so we can make sure we get enough icing. So once our maple syrup and coconut oil are nicely melted together, we're going to add our raw cacao powder. Ooh, antioxidants. Well, really, what I'm talking about is chocolate. We can make it sound as healthy as we want, right? So this is the simplest way to make a raw chocolate drizzle. So you can see my little chocolate fudge sauce shaping up nicely. If we wanted a little more liquidy, we could just add a pinch more maple syrup. I always like to use a pinch of salt with my chocolate. It really brings out the flavor. Probably tried a salted chocolate bar before. Delicious. So I've got the chocolate sauce. All I'm gonna do is drizzle it right on my tart before it goes in the fridge. And I'm just gonna put a little raspberry right on there. Oh, it's so cute. Whoever you're gonna feed this to is gonna love you so much. Feel all the time and energy you put into the dish. So I'll just swirl a little bit of this on top with my whisk. Another alternative is you could pour it into a sauce bottle. Use the sauce bottle to drizzle it on top there. Alternatively, if you want to do another layer in your tart, you could use this actual chocolate sauce on top of the jam we've made, and it would make like a coated, crusty chocolate layer in there. And just keep in mind though that once you put it into the fridge, the coconut oil will reharden. It'll become firm and crunchy essentially, like a chocolate truffle, and it's not going to be a liquid anymore. So if you're storing this, you will have to melt it down once again to re-drizzle it on something. So here we've got our chocolate tart. I'm gonna put this whole thing into the fridge. Once it's nice and firmed up, it'll be like a little mini jam and chocolate raspberry cheesecake. Just gonna take a little taste of everything all together. Got my crust, my jam, and my chocolate. Make sure the flavors are there. I'm sure they are. How can you go wrong with these flavor combinations? Any sort of nut with fruit and chocolate, I'm down. It's unbelievable. And it's gonna be really easy to get out of that pan once it's nice and chilled. So freezer or fridge, pop it in there. It'll last about a week. Thank you so much, Nature's Fair, for all the beautiful groceries and ingredients, and we'll see you again.